Hey everyone, Matt Brady here, your Carolina mortgage coach. And on this episode of Behind the Closing Table, I'm with Nick May with the CPG Group at EXP. I've known Nick for a few years and seen him grow from being a member on the team to now running a team and seen some major growth with him. If you follow Nick on social media, he celebrates every closing with one of those nice bottles of bourbon behind him. So we might hit on favorite bottles at the end, and maybe he has some tips for those bourbon drinkers too. So, Nick, thanks for being on today. Let people know a little bit insight about you, how long you've been in the industry, what got you started, kind of what you're seeing now.
Yeah, Matt, man, appreciate being on the show. Definitely a good time. It's been a long time in real estate. I know when I first started, everybody was like, "How long you been in real estate?" It seems like forever. So if you ever get that comment, they teach us to say that as a young agent. So I've been in the real estate industry since end of 2017. So I was a research and development chemist, which is usually a nice pause when somebody says, "What did you do before real estate?" So nice little segue of I actually do have a college education. So uh, I was able to pivot that. But no, I did research development chemistry for about 7 years, worked my way up, and basically I was negotiating bids and contracts with presidents of companies and putting together proposals and not really making the money that I thought I was going to college to make. Obviously, money is not a driving factor for everybody. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right? But money is important in today's world to actually do things you like to do and afford some bottles of bourbon. But so took some night school in real estate, did that for and finished up and got licensed end of 2017. Beginning of 2018, I jumped fully into real estate, quit my job and was like, let's go. Supportive wife, thankfully, because anybody that's in real estate will tell you those first 6 months are they're tough. You start seeing things
Make or break you.
effective. Yeah, right. So jumped into it. Actually joined my current business partner Keith Sandman's team at Keller Williams. So started buyer's agents at Keller Williams, then transitioned to with Keith to Costello and a smaller boutique firm in Charlotte area. And then I was ended up being the lead listing agent for an 18-person team before I branched out with Keith to EXP Realty, and we started Carolina's Property Group in 2021, and have been running strong for about 5 years now with this small team, and just focused on the Charlotte region specifically. I live in Indian since 2012, and Keith's in Fort Mill right now, but we do sell in Huntersville and Monroe and Lake Wiley and Chester. So we kind of cover a big, broad territory. But it's been a wild ride, and I've been
Awesome. So, like you mentioned, making through that first 6 months, let's go the first year. Because I saw a stat, that over, I think, the past year, maybe more than 50% or more of agents have done 4 transactions or less. And I think half of that haven't even done a transaction this year. So, what do you think separates the people that make it in this industry versus the people that, fizzle out?
100%. They say it's the 80-20 rule for sure in real estate. 80% of the business is done by 20% of the realtors. But I will say during that first 6 months, I mean, you go from working a 40-hour a week job, a W-2, to nobody's really forcing you to work. So I would say from a newer agent, having that dedication and mindset to put in the work, the work you put in day one, you'll see 3 to 6 months from now. And that is absolutely true because my bank account ran out in 6 months. And, seeing that red number in a bank account, having a supportive wife, like I said, was very crucial. But seeing that negative number really will motivate some people. So when I was at Keller Williams, I had a very insightful class taught by one of the best real estate agents in the area, Stephen Cooley. And he said, until you can own your neighborhood or your local market, you do not need to start expanding your territory, right? It's just like throwing something in the wall and seeing what sticks. So after I first began and got that initial 3 to 4 weeks of I can watch Netflix all day, and not actually have to work, started to realize that's not a real job, right? So that was just a vacation. So I started running more activities in my neighborhood in Indian Land, running social events, being more active, putting out market updates for the neighborhood, and basically just making sure I'm talking to anybody and everything. And about 4 months in, I finally got a friend of mine who was like, "We think we're going to list our house, and we want you to list our house, and we want to sell." And I was like, "Okay." So here it is. This is the first real listing opportunity I had. And thankfully, it went into multiple offers in the first few days. It was at that time of the market, and people started taking notice. So, you know, God willing, like that first listing is what kind of showed the people in my neighborhood that I'm not just spouting out things that I'm just straight trying to say. It's like, this is actually truthful. This guy's doing what he says he's going to do. He's very active and got that listing, sold a new house, a new construction, and then just started having the kind of a cascading effect for the new listings in my neighborhood. And so I really became very prominent in my neighborhood, making sure I hosted events, making sure I knew everybody. Because I will say in that neighborhood, I've had almost 50 listings since my career started.
Nice. Really own the neighborhood, own the people around you. That's probably the easiest way to build trust too, because they can see you every day. They see you're a real person and not just on social media. Do you think it's important for a newer agent to join a team, or do you think, what are your views on that? Going at it solo, maybe find a mentor, or joining a team? There's probably not a right or wrong answer, but is there a mindset that you got to have in each ways if you're going to try to go out as a solo agent when you get started versus being on a team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna depend on your personality, right? Are you individually motivated? Can you motivate yourself? Do you need that hands-on approach, right? So, I will say at the beginning, having, an office to go into and talking to other agents and seeing how they're doing things and having Keith as my team leader at the beginning, that was very crucial for me because I mean, I was pretty cocky when I first got into real estate. I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be easy." It's not. People don't generally want to trust a new agent with their biggest sell or purchase in their life, right? I mean, you see the Selling Sunsets, you see the HGTV shows, they make it look fun and easy, but I will tell you in real estate school, they don't teach you how to sell houses. They don't teach you really how to write contracts. They teach you how to stay out of real estate jail, but they're not gonna
Uh-huh.
teach you the fundamentals of negotiating, the fundamentals of what actions you need to do from point A to point B. So, as a newer agent, giving the lack of education, and I'll hit that point hard, giving the lack of education they do in real estate school, I think it's crucial to join at least a brokerage that offers that training at first, because if you go to a brokerage that doesn't have the mentorship or the coaching, or you're not joining a team, you're gonna be on an island and you're going to be reaching for clients that you may or may not have. But the last thing you want to do is mess up somebody's transaction from the very beginning, and then you put a bad reputation out there. So, from a new agent standpoint, I do think if you want to join a team and get guide and mentorship, I think that's really important. But you do know there are aspects of the team where you are sacrificing part of your commission for the team splits, the coaching, and but that to me was very fundamental in my basic understanding of real estate and knowing how to approach different conflicts and transactions and also in clients. I mean, dealing with the general public, as you know, it's a challenge.
Yeah. I think undervalued thing, and another real estate agent hit on this. When you get a team, you get to be a part of other transactions, and you can't. Nothing beats the reps of seeing and being a part of other trans. Now you might not be getting paid on it, but getting that experience of seeing how the transaction goes, how an experienced agent handles those conversations, good ones, tough ones, with the other agent, with their client, with the lender, with the inspector, that's invaluable information where you just can't, unless you get a really good opportunity and you're just a charismatic person and everyone just flocks to you and you have a big social network, you're not going to get those reps as a solo agent those first few months that are really going to guide and build that foundation, to start your career.
Yeah, I
So I
completely
think that's
agree. I
another
mean,
underestimated.
yeah, completely agree with that. I mean, is if somebody tells you that real estate's all the same, they're lying to you. I don't. There's only a handful of deals that you can walk through that are easy from point A to point Z. Most of the time, you'll encounter things that you've never seen before, right? And that's where
Hmm.
having some sort of agent support is definitely helpful. I know Keith and I, especially, it's like, oh man, have you heard of this before? It's just like, no, that's a new one for us. But again, we don't try to guess at a situation. I mean, if somebody asks us a question we generally don't know or have came across, we're going to ask our other agent colleagues and our broker in charges, and we're going to make sure that we're going to give the right response to our clients, because guessing is not an option in this. You don't just guess on somebody's transaction, right? You want to make sure you're telling them truthful advice. And I mean, everybody's human. I don't know everything about real estate, just like People don't everything about the school, the college degree they went to college for, but I will make sure that I make sure my client gets the right answer, and if not, I'm gonna find somebody that knows the right answer for me. But yeah, there's no such thing as a deal that's the same every single time, and we will run into encounters even, 7 years, 8 years for me, 10 plus years for Keith that we've had not encountered in real estate before, especially with the changes in AI and technology and laws and all of that. Like, we have to constantly be learning, um, the new contracts, so we make sure we're doing things according to the state law.
What do you think's the most underrated skill set a real estate agent should have that maybe
Well,
is not talked about a lot, but you see people succeed
picking
with?
up the phone is the most underrated skill set. I don't know. Sorry
Okay.
if I was trying to reconnect. Sorry, I'll just stop right there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right,
Oh, you're
sorry.
good. Yep.
I'm gonna go back to that. So probably picking up the phone. I mean, we all the time.
Yeah.
If you have a house listed and you're the listing agent and you don't pick up your phone or communicate, if I'm going to write an offer and there's multiple offers, I need to know what's important to your seller client. I need to know what your preferred closing date is. I need to know what concessions you will not give up as far as personal property. I need to know these things. And there's a lot of agents that will not answer the phone, and it's a tough business to be in. There's a lot of people that do this not as a full time job, and we like to work
Mhm.
hours, and I know you work hours like we do, but we work hours that are on people's schedule, and sometimes deals don't get done until 10 o'clock at night, or they'll get done at 7 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it's not on that 9 to 5 schedule. So a communicative agent is definitely something that we prefer to work with because if things arise, we can talk it out and make sure we can come to terms as opposed to having to let this delay over a week or two, which is going to stress everybody out.
Yeah, one of the lenders that I learned from, loan officer for years out in Arizona, he was known, his phrase, his name's Todd Better, was answer your damn phone. He even had shirts that were made of answer your damn phone. He's like, you want to grow in this industry? Answer your damn phone. He's
That's
like,
it.
I've won deals, taken calls. He's like, I've taken calls while I was in the shower. And the agent on the other end's like, are you in the shower right now? And he's like, yeah, but you called. So I answer, what's up? What do you need? He's like, I just was known as the guy that always answered his damn phone. So
Yeah.
it builds trust with your partners when they know no matter what they can reach you.
I
So
mean,
I
seriously,
definitely agree with that.
we went to Italy this past year, like a few months ago, me and my wife, and she's looking at me while we're in Italy of, "Are you answering text messages?" I'm like, "Well, just 1 or 2." I mean, Keith took the blunt of our work whenever I went away, but clients knew that even though I was not even in the same country, that I was gonna respond to them and answer them, and I think that goes a long way. I mean, that's a good part about having a team and having a business partner is having somebody to kinda cover you while you are gone so you can enjoy vacation, but, for the most part, we hold these deals close and tight because I'll speak to this point later. Like Keith and I don't pay for leads. I mean, most of all of our business is sphere of influence. It's friends, it's family, it's past clients. So we want to make sure that we're taking great care of everybody we possibly can take care of because we won't repeat business. And if we don't get repeat business, then our business goes down. So we answer our
Yeah.
phones.
What it now switching to, the real estate business itself. It's a different market than it was just a few years ago. Are there mistakes you see people make on the buyer side as well as they make on the listing side that maybe not every transaction goes that way, but it's definitely a reoccurring thing that you see more often than not that's someone that can take away here if they're thinking about buying a house or thinking about listing their house, just a common mistake you see people make?
Yeah, I'll start on the listing side. The listing side is we're not in 2021 anymore. We're not in 2020 anymore. Right? Buyers, instead of having 0.08 months of inventory in the Charlotte region, they're running on 4 months of inventory. So buyers have options, meaning your listing needs to be priced accordingly, and you need to stand out. If you have a 2012 house and you haven't updated since 2012, well, you better price it accordingly, or you better do some updates that needs to happen. And that's part of our listing presentation is we'll go through and see, all right, where can we maximize the value? Do you have any renovation budget? Can we do new flooring? Can we do new paint? Can we do new countertops with new backsplash? It's going to show well. If we have that budget, we highly recommend it. I mean, we had a client in Waxhaw The house was beat up. I mean, it's been a rental for 2 years, and it needed 25, $30,000 worth of work to bring it up to par. Well, the conversation was list at 375 or 400 or list at 475 with 30K with the work. Well, that's a big return on value. She did the work. Well, Keith and I helped with that. And we ended up selling for high for like 465, which she doubled her investment because if that house would have been listed as is with no updates, buyers would have walked in there and walked out because they don't want to take on a big project with the interest rates, as high as they are. So I would say from a selling standpoint, is you need to photograph well because photograph and videography is good marketing. But if you're not photographing well, you're not getting the intentional line, and that's what's driving showings to your house. Unless you're in a, call it a Fort Mill, call Baxter Village, we'll do Mason's Bend, or some of the Charlotte neighborhoods that are highly desirable. Unless you're in one of those where it doesn't really matter your updates, you are buying based on your location, you're going to need to stand out. So, from a listing standpoint, Keith and I will go to these houses, we will offer suggestions based on a budget. We will then price accordingly based on what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do. But we're going room by room. This is how we want it staged. This is how we want furniture to look. This is how we want rooms to look. And if their furniture honestly is gaudy or hideous, like we'll bring in a staging consultant to tell them and offers recommendations on how to make this better because ultimately your presentation is more key in this today's market than it ever has been because of the buyers opportunities they have. Now, from a buyer standpoint, I'm telling them the complete opposite. I want to walk
Mhm.
in houses that need paint. I want to walk in houses that need flooring. And I want to walk in houses that need updating because at the end of the day, I'm probably going to be able to get that house for a value and let them update the things they want to do, as opposed to walking into the move in ready house that's going into multiple offers. Like, well, maybe we get this house and you put, your own spin on it and you walk into instant equity. So buyers just need to see past cosmetics these days. Now, we do stress the importance of the HVAC, the roof, and the water heater. Those are your big ticket items, right? But if those are in place and it's just the walls are pink or purple in bedrooms or, these light fixtures hadn't been updated since early 2000s, like those are things that you can easily update over time. And it's also where we negotiate from a buyer's agent standpoint of seller concessions. We're going to put money back into your pocket so you can do these updates when you move in.
Mhm. What are, in terms of, how you guys say you go in, you make those recommendations on what really adds value. What would you say are your top three things that add value? And what are your top three things that people think add value, but don't really maybe give you that bang for your buck back that you're better off putting that money somewhere else?
Okay. Yeah, fair. So the top three things that add the most value are landscapings. Landscapings up there is one. Because when we park in front of a house, the buyers are judging the house as we're fumbling for trying to open this lockbox. It always seems to be a challenge. Um, so the landscaping, having a very presentable outside and an entertaining area out back too. So like landscaping is not just fresh mulch and trimming your bushes in the front. It's outside too. Do you have an entertaining area outside that you can put fresh flowers and make sure that the yard looks good? So it's a good presentation. Number two is definitely flooring. Darker flooring just makes the house darker. If you can lighten the house up, it makes the house look completely more inviting. And then paint. Paint is something people don't look past. I know we moved into our house back in 21 and the walls were beige, the ceiling was beige. And I was like, oh no. So before we even moved in, we painted the house. But from the most part, like that, those are the three things that's going to return you your most value. Now, the primary bathroom is gonna be the biggest renovation that's gonna return your value because everybody just wants a nice primary suite. I would say the biggest the what does not return value, which is kind of a misconception, is kitchens, right? Completely remodeling kitchens to your, like, preference might not be the same preference as your buyers, right? Like, doing minimal things like painting cabinets and countertops, yes, but if you're doing modifications, you're moving the structural things around in kitchens, like, and you're spending 70, 80 grand on your kitchen renovation, you're probably not going to return that investment. And that's why I recommend we don't want to do that before you sell. Let the new buyer, we'll do some minor updates, but let the new buyer, if they want to modify the kitchen, let them modify the kitchen.
Okay. Now, we talked about renovations, you are from this area, so you might know some hidden spots. What are some hidden gems in this area that you don't think are not catching everyone's eye right now that they may be able to find that deal that you're talking?
Oof, finding a deal, huh? That's kinda hard in the Charlotte market with as many people we have moving every day, but, I would say more in the Charlotte market is, Locust, North Carolina. So if you look up
Okay.
next to Midland and Locust, Locust is now building up pretty well, and it's got one of my favorite golf courses near there, Red Bridge. So if you're in that area, definitely get a chance to play that, but as far as schools are concerned, it's one of the higher rated school districts in the Charlotte area, and it's still building, and you can still get great value on some new construction out there. And as they continue to kind of build, I mean, you watch this with Gastonia and Lake Wiley over the years, and Indian Land, where I'm from. Oh my goodness, Indian Land in 2012 didn't exist, and now we've seen
Hmm.
incredible growth in Indian Lands. But if you are trying to get still the value and you're looking on the outskirts, you got to see where things are growing. You know, Fort Mill is
Hmm.
going to continue to hold value because of the school district. Same with Clover and Lake Wiley. Ballantyne's always a highly sought after area in Charlotte, but you got to look and see where the growth is trending. So you're not buying in a saturated market, you're buying where it's going to be, you're going to reap that reward as things continue to grow. If you look at Lancaster right now, Lancaster for my northern viewers, but if you look at Lancaster, which is southern Indian Land, if you can see there's Costco, there's Target, there's Indian Land High School, there's more moving down that way since they're running out of space that if you just kind of wait on the growth, you're going to experience the most return. So my biggest advice would be look in areas where you see a lot of growth and invest in that area. And that's going to be reap your rewards because when me and my wife bought in Indian Land in 2012, we bought new construction. There was nothing around. I mean, we bought our house for $175,000, starter home. We sold it in 2021 for 405, and it continued to go up in value because of all the things happening in Indie Land. So you got to just see where the growth is happening and then where your comfort zone is, right? Like if you're commuting from, I don't know, Gastonia over to Locust, that might not be where you want to commute, right? So
Hmm.
you need to factor in all those things, but anywhere you see just a lot of new construction happening as far as like buildings and businesses. Look in those areas and find some pockets that you like and invest in those areas.
Definitely. That I saw that just down here in Clover. They're growing.
Yeah.
Who would have thought Clover would have two high schools? So
Well,
it
top
is
schools
definitely
survive.
growing. Yeah. So we've seen major growth here on this side and appreciation in the property values and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So you know, as we're going through this, and we kind of we'll talk about first time homebuyers in a second, but I think a under talked to group of people right now that could really need guidance from experienced real estate agents are going to be your first time sellers, because they probably came into a completely different market, where they were used to multiple offers, appraisal gaps, waiving contingencies, and how you've already talked on this episode a little bit. It's, buyers have some control now, if on a property. How are you setting proper expectations with first time sellers that, are entering it into the first time of selling a home? How are you handling those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, you'll appreciate this. My first thing is always talk to a loan officer. So what is
Mhm.
your next step? So are you moving, are you moving because you need more size? You need to downsize, you need to upsize, you want to be in a different school district. Why are you moving? Literally, my job is not to try to sell your house, is to find the reason why you are selling your house. What is your motivation? So we talked to a loan officer. So what can you qualify for without selling your home? What can you qualify for with selling your home? So those are two different conversations I have with sellers because it changes the strategy. Do we have to have this house ready to rock and roll? Because if you are a contingent seller in a client of mine, your house has already been photographed. Your house is already ready to go. So when we find your house and somebody's asking us when we go on the market, it's tomorrow. I do not like having to wait 2 weeks, and it makes your offer more a stronger offer to other sellers too, being a very quick to market contingent offer. So, have the conversation with the loan officer. What does that look like? Now, as we're getting ready to sell, what is your house worth? I always like to ask a seller, what do you think your house is worth? That's when we get to see these estimate values and all kinds of crazy theories. And Yes, and then they'll have recent refinance appraisals or HELOC appraisals, which, as you know, are not the same value as a sell either. So, having conversations and putting realistic expectations. All right, your roof is 15 years old. Your HVAC is 12 years old. We need to think about these things when we're pricing the house because it's going to come up, right? So we set sellers up of my house is worth hypothetically call it $500,000. Why? So based on my comps, we show them the comps. We show them the most recent sales in their neighborhood if we can, because those are the strongest comps that appraiser is going to use. And then we compare what's currently on the market. So you want to price your house at 500, but your neighbor $4 down is at 475. Similar square footage, more updates. So why do you think your house is worth 500? Well, that's what it's worth. So we actually have to we have to put things in place and kind of talk numbers with sellers and break them down. Well, you've owned this house since you paid 250 for it. So you're set to walk with $300,000 in equity in this house. Like, if you set on market longer and chase price down, then we might be sitting longer. How many showings do you want to deal with? So it's just showing comps, it's showing strategy, it's showing competition, and putting together a strategic price and timeline in place for the sellers. So we know we can get them their next house and we can sell this house without them hopefully having to double up a payment, house payment.
Good advice there. Um, so what do you being in the industry since 2017, there's a lot of myths out there, down payment myths, waiting to time the market, waiting for housing prices to crash. What are some myths that you feel that you get tired of hearing in the industry?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the rate to go back down. I mean, how long have we heard that one for? Going on like 3 years now.
Mhm.
And there's
Mhm.
also a myth that actually heard on the Charlotte News about a year ago, and a news anchor said at 12 o'clock news, because I watched Prices Right before that with my wife. He said it is now cheaper to rent than it is to buy. I recorded that, and I literally put it on social media. It is cheaper to rent than to buy. That is a myth that's got put out there, and people are believing it. Like, it's cheaper to rent than to buy. You are paying somebody else's mortgage if you're renting a house or a townhome or a condo. You are gaining no equity on this, and you're paying somebody else's mortgage, and you're paying at an all-time high in rent. You're paying $3,000 a month in rent. You're going to spend $36,000 a year, 72,000 if you want to take 2 years, and you have nothing to show for it. So the myth is, I don't want to buy a house when prices are all-time high, when rates are all-time high. That is a myth that I try to combat. That if you own a house for 2 years or more, you generally will break even, if not make money. If you historically own a house for 5 years, you are going to profit on your ownership. If you own a house for 10 years, you're guaranteed to almost profit on your ownership. So the myth that it's cheaper to rent to buy, yes, if you're not gonna stay in the Charlotte area for 1 to 2 years, yeah, probably rent. But if you plan on putting roots here for 10 years and you bought a house, I would find it hard pressed that you're not making money over throwing $36,000, $72,000 every 2 years down the drain and putting some equity. Like I said, if we didn't buy our house in 2012, when, "Oh my god, y'all are 24 years old, you shouldn't buy a house right now," we would have never had that money to put towards our next house.
Exactly. It's gonna provide the down payment on your next home or the stepping stone at line. And then one thing I tell people now is, let's just say you have a $500,000 house because the math is easy.
Mhm.
Average appreciation, even in a slower market, is 3%. So that's $15,000 in a year. When is the last time you got a $15,000 raise year over year at your job?
Right.
Probably not very often. Unless you're commission and sale. Well, I'm talking base salary. How often do you get, a $15,000 raise in your salary? That's what a
Right.
house can provide you.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I broke this number down for, I'm in a BNI network, and I broke this number down. So we have a client right now for sale, is listed for 1.2 million. Winner a contract, multiple offers, because it's the area, right? It's a desirable area, which I go back to speak to. If your area is desirable, you're going to sell quickly still. But they bought that house for $750,000, call it, and own it for going on 6 years now. I broke it down. I was like, homeownership has profited them an extra $74,000 a year for owning a home. It has appreciated $74,000 a year since they've owned the home. What? There's not a lot of careers that make
mhm,
$74,000 a year, and you just did that in home ownership. So
mhm.
how is that for, how much your money can be worth in 5 years? for owning a home as opposed to renting.
Yeah. And it's a forced savings account. We can talk about all the benefits of it. It's if you're really do the numbers, talk to a professional, run the numbers before you just make a blanket statement of anything, I think is what it boils down to. Now, kind of going off the name of the show, behind the closing table, when someone walks away from the closing table with Nick May, what do you hope they remember about the experience of working with you?
Probably the bottle of bourbon I just gave them, so hopefully they will remember that. Uh-huh. No, just I always tell them that you this because we're closed does not mean that you do not need to reach out to me anymore, right? So like if you're in South Carolina, it's really important to make your property your primary residence or your taxes will triple. So I follow up making sure that you registered your property as your primary residence, making sure that you're settling in the house, drop by and just, see the house that you move in. But I committed part of my life to help you buy this house, like, and I hope I was, beneficial in this in your journey. So I try to stay in touch with everybody that I worked with in the past and checking in on them. But I would like to say that, if they close or like Nick, every time I had a question, Nick answered it. Every time I had any sort of, emotional response, Nick was there to help answer the questions and go through and talk this over, right? Like they say real estate agents, realtors are psychiatrists, psychologists, and it's honestly true. Like, I mean, buyer's remorse
Hmm.
is real. So we'll have buyers put offers in a house. It's like your offer's accepted. They're like, oh crap, this is real. Like, well, yeah, it's real. So it's like, no, you got a great house for a great price where you wanted. So we just have to make sure we're instilling, not false sense of security, right? If you don't want to be in the house, like
Uh-huh.
we'll get you out of the contract. But I just want everybody to know that, like, and everybody to take away that Nick gave me all the advice he had anytime I needed it, and that I made a very solid financial investment, and also I was very well educated throughout the entire process.
Awesome. So, as we get to the end of this episode, and we've talked a lot of real estate, gave a lot of great tips. Let's go to the personal side a little bit. So we see those bottles behind you.
Yes.
What is your favorite brand? But also, if someone was starting their bourbon collection, what is a great option to start their journey with?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like starting options, I've said this for a long time. 1792 is a hard brand to beat for the price. Really solid bourbon. Blade and Bow, also a really good brand for the price. I've gotten to dabble in a little bit higher end bourbon here recently, and the Weller Foolproof is delicious. The E.H. Taylor Single Barrel and Barrel Proof is also delicious. So, starting off as far as like, I would say challenge your palate. Go to higher proof bourbons, go to lower proof bourbons, go to weeded. Um, Try what you like. It's funny because like the client that I talked about, that $1.2 million house we have for sale, we're closing tomorrow. He, he actually, when we bought that house for him, I wasn't into bourbon at the time. He's like, come on, I'll let you have a tasting for helping me buy this house. And we sat down one afternoon and tasted all the bourbons he had. So for tomorrow's closing, he'll have him a nice bottle of bourbon for sure. But no, it's just try what you like. It's different strokes for different folks. I'm a big component of about the 100 and 105 proof, but that's kinda where my bread and butter is, but I would highly
Okay.
recommend trying a lot of different ones to see what meets your palate. But if you're starting off, don't start off with a really expensive bottle. Sometimes they're overpriced, overmarked. Start off with something you can find in the store and take the store picks. These people at these stores know what they're talking about. I love going into Lazy Day Liquors in Fort Mill. I'll give them a shout out because I've won a few raffles from them. Love going in there and talking to the guys about their store picks because they'll give you a really good recommendation.
Awesome. And what's something that people don't know about you? What's a fun fact about Nick?
Oof. Fun fact, I'm about as loyal as it gets because I've been a Gamecock fan my entire life. So if anybody's a college sports enthusiast and relish in my years of sorrow, diehard Gamecock fan, sports fan. I did get a scholarship in high school for bowling. I came in third in the state. That's something that might not know. That's a fun fact. But other than that, just
Nice.
as social as I am with people. my guilty pleasure is just sitting down with my wife watching movies and TV shows at night just to kind of like chill. So I love being social,
Nice.
but I like just kind of chilling on the couch in gym shorts and t-shirt and watching TVs and movies with the wife.
Nice. And you're a golfer, right?
And well, I play golf. I wouldn't class
Okay.
myself as a golfer. It's one of those hobbies they say people shouldn't spend more than like 3% or something on their hobby. Well, golf is one of those hobbies you shouldn't take up, but it's a hard sport. Again, it creates you frustration, and it's just like the real estate. It's like I punish myself in real estate sometimes, and I go punish myself on the golf course. But it's my knees are not there for basketball anymore, and I've never been
Okay.
fast enough to really outrun people. So, golf is a perfect sport for us for me to play as I get older.
Awesome. So, if someone's really connected with your story and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get connected with you if they're looking for you to buy or sell? Or, if they liked what you said about your leadership and your team and, they want to see what that looks like joining the CPG team, what's the best way to get in contact with you? And, we'll also be dropping links to this podcast that has his socials on there, but phone number, text, email, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, of course. I haven't changed my phone number since I was 16 years old, so it's not going to change. And it's not going to change anytime soon. So if my number, it's on every email chain, it's on all my socials. He'll drop a link in the comment, but text me, call me. Those are usually the easiest ways to get in touch with me. I'll respond via text really quickly, especially even if I'm with clients or something. I'll respond like I'll give you a call back as soon as I can, like I did when we took a pause. But
Mhm.
yeah, text or call me. Text is usually probably the easiest. That way we can arrange a call. And yeah, just like working with like-minded individuals. So if buying and selling real estate and you want to make it fun, you want to have a glass of bourbon or two when we're done, I'm your guy.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you for watching today. This is your latest episode of Behind the Closing Table with Nick May of the CPG Group. Thank you for your time today, Nick, and see you everybody on the next podcast. Thank you. Have a great day.
Appreciate it, everybody.